Welcome back to the Path to Peace Therapy podcast. I'm Stephanie Buckley, an AMFT, ADHD parenting strategist, and family systems coach based in Hermosa Beach, California. I specialize in ADHD, anxiety, depression, and family systems therapy for kids, teens, couples, and young adults. And as someone who's been married for over 3 decades and raised a now thriving 23-year-old neurodivergent son, I've seen firsthand that peace isn't about perfection. It's about learning to stay grounded, connected, and calm, even when life gets messy. Today's episode is called When Life Feels Like Chaos, Finding Calm and Clarity in Your 20s. We're going to unpack what really happens in the transition to adulthood, especially for neurodivergent young adults, and explore how family systems, attachment, and ADHD shape the way we navigate independence. Let's start with something that so many young adults tell me after graduation. I thought I'd feel more ready for this. Graduating college or stepping into your 20s is a major transition. It's the first time you're asked to manage everything: your time, your finances, your emotions, your career, all without the structure you've known for most of your life. And for many neurodivergent individuals, especially those with ADHD or anxiety, that structure is what kept you steady. When it suddenly disappears, it can feel like freefall. You may notice old family dynamics resurfacing. Maybe you still rely on your parents more than you want to. Or maybe you feel guilty pulling away. Maybe you hear yourself saying things your parents once said. Or maybe you're trying to do the opposite and that's not working either. Even when you move out or graduate, the family system doesn't graduate, you do. When we talk about Bowen family systems theory, we're really talking about emotional ecosystems. Think of your family like a mobile hanging from the ceiling. When one piece moves, the entire structure shifts, even if only slightly. Every member of the family is connected, emotionally and energetically. When one person experiences anxiety, anger, or sadness, it doesn't stay contained. It reverberates through the system. You might have noticed this during family gatherings. One person walks in already tense, and within minutes, everyone feels it. Someone else tries to smooth things over, another withdraws to keep the peace, and suddenly the entire emotional tone of the room has changed. That's a living example of the family system in motion. Bowen believed that families develop predictable patterns around stress, closeness, and individuality. Some families manage anxiety by becoming enmeshed, meaning everyone feels responsible for everyone else's emotions. In others, people become emotionally cut off, keeping distance as a form of protection. Neither is right or wrong. Both are adaptations. The key, according to Bowen, is something called differentiation of self. It's the ability to stay emotionally connected to your family while also being your own person, to think and act for yourself even when others around you are anxious or reactive. In a highly fused system, one person's anxiety can hijack everyone's calm. But when you're differentiated, you can stay grounded, even if someone else is spiraling. You don't absorb their emotion. You witness it with compassion while maintaining your own balance. For example, if you grew up in a household where tension was often unspoken, you may have learned to sense everyone's moods before anyone said a word. That heightened sensitivity, which is common in people with ADHD and anxiety, can make it hard to tell where your feelings end and your family's begin. Therapy helps you slow that process down and notice the pattern. Oh, I'm taking on my mom's worry again. I'm stepping into the fixer role right now. Or, I'm shutting down because conflict feels unsafe. When you start to see those emotional reflexes for what they are, patterned responses rather than personality flaws, you begin to reclaim choice. That's the beauty of Bowen's work. It helps us understand that anxiety doesn't just live inside us. It moves through us, through the system. And the more differentiated we become, the less that anxiety runs the show. Differentiation doesn't mean detaching or becoming cold. It means you can love your family deeply and still think independently. You can stay connected without being controlled, compassionate without being consumed. And for young adults, especially those just starting out after college, this is everything. Because the ability to regulate your own emotions while staying connected to others is the foundation for healthy relationships, confident decision-making, and true independence. According to Bowen family systems theory, we are all part of an emotional network that shapes how we think, feel, and relate. Every family develops patterns around stress, communication, and emotion, and those patterns don't end when you leave home. They live inside you. If you were the fixer, you might find yourself managing everyone's problems at work or in relationships. If you were the peacemaker, you might avoid conflict even when speaking up would be healthier. If you were the scapegoat, the one who caused problems growing up, you might unconsciously expect things to go wrong, even when they're going fine. Family roles are learned survival strategies. They help us maintain stability in our families, but in adulthood, they can keep us from developing a full sense of self. Let's talk about attachment theory. Our earliest experiences with safety and love teach us what to expect from relationships later in life. If you grew up with consistency, you probably learned, I can count on people and they can count on me. But if love or attention felt inconsistent, you might carry anxiety into your relationships, worrying you'll be left behind, rejected, or misunderstood. That's what we call anxious attachment, craving reassurance, fearing disapproval. On the other end, there's avoidant attachment, the I'm fine mode. You may appear confident, but secretly find it hard to ask for help. And then there's disorganized attachment, the push-pull dynamic where you want closeness, but fear it at the same time. Now, add ADHD into the mix. The impulsivity, emotional intensity, and rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, that often come with ADHD can amplify these attachment patterns. You might overthink texts, replay conversations, or feel too much for others, but these aren't character flaws. They're nervous system responses rooted in your early relational wiring. Once we start seeing ourselves as part of that larger emotional network, not just reacting to life in isolation, we can begin to understand why certain relationships or transitions trigger us more deeply than others. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The family system is the environment where our attachment style is first formed. The same patterns of closeness, distance, and emotional regulation that shaped your family system also shape your attachment blueprint. In other words, the way your family managed emotion is often the same way you learned to manage connection. If your parents modeled safety and responsiveness, relationships probably feel like a refuge. But if connection felt unpredictable or conditional, independence might feel confusing, something you crave, and fear at the same time. That's where attachment theory comes in. It helps us understand how those early emotional patterns continue to guide our relationships in adulthood, long after we've left home. Attachment theory gives us a language to understand what safety and love feel like, or sometimes what they don't feel like. When we were kids, we didn't just learn how to walk or read. We learned how to connect, we learned how to soothe, how to get our needs met, and how to handle distress mostly by watching the people who raised us. If your caregivers were calm, consistent, and emotionally available, you probably developed what's called secure attachment. That doesn't mean your parents were perfect. It means they were predictable enough that your nervous system learned, I can count on people. I can count on myself. But for others, that foundation might have been shakier. If support or affection was inconsistent, warm one day, withdrawn the next, you might have learned to chase closeness just to feel safe. That's anxious attachment. It can look like overthinking texts, replaying conversations, or constantly wondering, did I say something wrong? If love came with strings attached, or you grew up in a home where emotions weren't talked about, you may have learned to rely only on yourself. That's avoidant attachment, the I'm fine mode, even when you're not. It's independence built on self-protection. And for some, the experience was both craving closeness but fearing it at the same time. That's disorganized attachment, often rooted in unpredictability or emotional chaos in early relationships. Now, add ADHD to any of these attachment patterns and everything becomes louder. ADHD doesn't just affect focus or organization, it directly impacts how your nervous system processes emotion. The part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, the prefrontal cortex, develops more slowly in people with ADHD. That delay makes it harder to pause, reflect, and self-soothe in moments of conflict or stress. So, if you grew up with attachment wounds, even small ones, your brain may still default to fight, flight, or freeze much faster than someone with a more regulated attachment system. A simple delay in a reply, a shift in tone, or an unexpected change of plans can trigger deep feelings of rejection or panic, what we call rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD. That's not you being too sensitive. It's your body remembering what emotional inconsistency used to mean, I might lose connection. When we bring attachment work into therapy for ADHD or anxiety, we're really teaching the nervous system a new language, one that says, I can feel disappointed or scared and still stay grounded. I can feel uncertain and still stay connected. It's about learning to regulate your emotions in a way that doesn't depend on external reassurance. That's the heart of secure attachment, knowing you can be connected to others without losing your sense of self. For young adults, especially those fresh out of college, this can be a huge developmental milestone. The world suddenly expects you to be independent, but your nervous system still craves the structure and safety of family. Attachment work helps you build that safety internally so that independence stops feeling like isolation and starts feeling like self-trust. When you learn to understand your attachment style, you stop personalizing rejection. You begin to see your emotional responses not as flaws, but as information, your body's way of saying, I need comfort, I need stability, I need to know I'm safe. That awareness is the bridge between reacting and responding, between spiraling and regulating. And that's the space where real healing begins. In Bowen theory, the ultimate goal of adulthood isn't to cut off from your family. It's to develop differentiation, the ability to stay emotionally connected while still being your own person. Differentiation is emotional adulthood. It's learning how to stay grounded when your parents question your choices, express opinions without guilt or over-explaining, build routines that fit you, not the ones you inherited. True independence isn't rebellion, it's regulation. It's being able to love your family but live your own life. For young adults with ADHD, this means building internal structure instead of relying on external reminders. You begin moving from external dependence needing others to hold you accountable to internal confidence, trusting yourself to follow through. Therapy can help you practice this shift by combining solution-focused tools with family systems insight, helping you notice old patterns, regulate your nervous system, and redefine what success looks like for you. When we start healing our attachment patterns, when we learn to self-soothe, to stay present during discomfort, and to trust our emotional cues, something powerful happens. We begin to differentiate. Differentiation is one of the core ideas in Bowen family systems theory. It means learning how to stay emotionally connected to others while still maintaining your own identity, beliefs, and calm. Picture yourself as a tree. Your family is the soil. It gave you nutrients, safety, and a foundation. But as you grow, your roots stay connected while your branches reach toward your own light. That's differentiation. It's not rebellion. It's not disconnection. It's emotional adulthood. The more securely attached you become, the more you trust yourself to handle stress and uncertainty, the easier it is to stay connected to your family without absorbing their anxiety or guilt. You can listen without defending. You can love without people-pleasing. You can set boundaries without shame. That's what emotional regulation looks like in action. For young adults, especially those just out of college, this process is a major developmental leap. You're learning to hold two truths at once. I love my family, and I'm also allowed to live differently than they do. In less differentiated families, anxiety moves like static electricity. One person's stress immediately sparks another's reaction. Maybe you felt that. A parent's worry about your career, your choices, or your next move. And without realizing it, you internalize that anxiety until it feels like your own. But as you grow in differentiation, you start noticing that pattern. You pause and think, wait, this anxiety isn't mine. You can hold compassion for their concern without letting it control your decisions. And for individuals with ADHD, this is especially critical. Because your brain is wired for sensitivity, it picks up on emotional cues fast. Differentiation teaches you to slow down that process, to recognize what belongs to you and what doesn't. It's about developing your internal regulator, the ability to stay calm even when the people around you aren't. That skill doesn't just improve family relationships, it shapes every other area of life, your friendships, your work environment, and your romantic relationships. When you're differentiated, you can show up authentically not as the fixer, the peacekeeper, or the responsible one, but as you. It's the quiet confidence of knowing I can love you deeply and still make choices that are right for me. That's emotional maturity. That's independence with connection. And that's what allows peace to take root, not just in your relationships, but inside of you. Before we wrap up today, I want to invite you to pause, maybe take a deep breath, and reflect on where you are in this process of growing into yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out. This is the season of learning, not perfection. And awareness is the very first step toward peace. Here are a few reflection questions to help you explore what differentiation, attachment, and family systems might look like in your own life. When I spend time with my family, how do I feel afterward, calm, grounded, or emotionally drained? Your body often knows the answer before your mind does. What role did I play growing up, and how might that role still be shaping my relationships today? Becoming aware of those roles gives you power to choose differently. What does independence mean to me, and does my version of independence allow for connection, or does it require distance? True independence includes room for love, vulnerability, and interdependence. As you think about those, remember this. Growth doesn't mean breaking away from your family. It means learning to bring your authentic self forward. It's the space where connection and individuality finally coexist. That's where peace begins, when you no longer have to choose between belonging and being yourself. Practical ways to find calm and clarity in your 20s. Over the years, both within my own family system and in the many families and young adults I've supported, I've seen how lasting change happens in small, intentional steps. These aren't just therapeutic tools, they're lived truths that have transformed chaos into connection for so many. Name your patterns. Every family has an emotional rhythm roles we play and reactions we inherit. In my own home, I had to recognize where overfunctioning came from love, but also created imbalance. I've helped countless clients make the same discovery. Once you can name your role, you can choose differently. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Create structure with flexibility. ADHD brains crave predictability, but reject rigidity. That balance became a cornerstone in my own parenting clear routines, paired with room for choice and creativity. Families I work with learn that the goal isn't control. It's consistency that feels safe. Structure should support growth, not stifle it. Build co-regulation into your life. We all regulate better in connection. I've seen the power of calm presence shift entire family systems, whether it's a parent learning to slow their breathing before responding, or a young adult realizing that grounding doesn't mean isolating. In my own family, co-regulation meant learning that peace is contagious, but so is panic. Which one we lead with matters. Focus on progress, not perfection. In therapy and at home, I remind people that independence isn't a finish line, it's a practice. Growth comes through repetition, repair, and gentle self-correction. My own family learned this firsthand. We celebrate effort, not outcome. Every small win rewires the nervous system toward confidence. Even therapists need perspective. I've sought mentorship, supervision, and therapy myself, and I encourage families to do the same. A neutral space, whether coaching or therapy, helps you see what's yours to carry and what's just been passed down. I've watched clients reclaim peace once they realize that healing doesn't mean fixing everyone else, it means choosing to grow differently. These principles have guided my own family through transitions, and they're the same foundations I teach in my work every day. Whether you're 22 and figuring out your next step, or a parent learning to let go with love, these tools bring clarity to the messy middle. Peace doesn't come from perfect balance, it comes from practicing awareness, flexibility, connection, self-compassion, and support, one day at a time. This episode is for educational purposes and to provide support. It's not a substitute for professional mental health evaluation, diagnosis, or treatment. The more we learn to recognize the signs behind behaviors, the more compassion and support we can offer to ourselves and to others. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode was helpful, please share it with a friend or fellow graduate who might need it too. You can subscribe for future episodes and find more tools and resources at thepath2peacetherapy.com or follow along on Instagram at thepath2peacetherapy. Peace isn't about having all the answers. It's about understanding yourself deeply enough to respond differently. You can build a life that feels calm, connected, and meaningful, one where you're not reacting to the past, but intentionally shaping your future. If you're ready to find your footing in this next chapter, I'd be honored to walk with you. You can learn more or schedule a virtual session at thepath2peacetherapy.com. And as always, take a deep breath, give yourself some grace, and remember, you got this and I've got you.